The Mandalorian and Grogu movie comes out in less than a week, so today I'm predicting most of the plot of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Of course, all of this isn't really accurate. Some of them might actually be spoilers because I'm actually pretty confident about most of the stuff I was able to collect. Some of it is from the trailers as well as some clips that have dropped, 2 or 3 actual major ones, but I'm not really sure the order of them. Of course, I tried to decode that in today's video, but most of it is actually surprisingly from the soundtrack that dropped the Friday before the release of the actual movie, and that also sort of helped me order it a little bit better. Without further ado, let's get into it. I also think the first 20 minutes will drop in a Fortnite watch party on Tuesday, which will be the Tuesday before the release day of The Mandalorian and Grogu, so I am probably going to upload this video after that, but filming will definitely be before, because I sort of want to go into my predictions blind. But the full movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes, which is actually a pretty nice runtime, so I'm not sure how long every single scene will be, but I believe it will start on that snowy planet, which probably might not be Hoth, or it could be Hoth. Honestly, I don't think it is Hoth because it will be such a quick scene. That's where we'll see the ATRT, like the one in my background here, as well as what I believe is Commander Coin, which I'm not quite sure because something really doesn't match up with that, and he does die from a clip that got released on Disney Plus on May the 4th, who is an Imperial warlord. Then Zeb picks him up in the Ewing, which is sort of just like the first-ish. It's kind of skips out the first minute and then goes for the rest of the 4 minutes, skipping like the first minute of that one scene. Zeb is of course going to take Mando to the Adelphi base, where he's going to meet up with Colonel Ward. And as far as how Mando gets the new Razor Crest, it is supposedly is a gift from Colonel Ward from an Imperial warlord. Obviously, the Razor Crest was like completely destroyed, except for some like Beskar in his ship. I believe the Beskar spear was technically the only thing that really made it out, but besides that, is completely destroyed. Honestly, I'm thinking that some parts were just like around, not enough to build a full ship, so the rest of the parts were replaced with yellow, but that is basically an advance for the next mission, which is from the Hutts, but Colonel Ward does specify that it is specifically for the New Republic, but it is, of course, the Hutt twins, which are now sort of the leader of the Hutts after Jabba the Hutt died, since this does take place after episode 6. And basically the whole premise of capturing these Imperial warlords are from a Sabacc deck, where Colonel Ward mentions the Ace of Sevens, I believe, which is the card that is sort of missing and does not have a face, which kind of doesn't really match up or doesn't really help my prediction at all. Ward says that it's Commander Coin, but that wouldn't make sense if the first scene was Commander Coin dying. Obviously, she wouldn't give him the mission about the warlord that already died, so I'm assuming that could be a nickname for another person, which honestly could have no correlation with this at all, but I mainly got the other name from the soundtrack called Lord Janu. I believe, hopefully I'm saying that right, but he does come up later in my prediction, which I'm thinking could be maybe a nickname with Commander Coin. But the next scene will sort of probably show up a little bit of the Hutts, or we'll either have a soundtrack where it's sort of the Hutts theme, and then he'll go to the planet with the Rada pit fight, which some people thought would be Nala Hada, but I don't think it is. I think it's a different planet name. It's like, I'll put the name on the screen, but I think it's like Shakiri or something. As of 1 day later, Wikipedia has confirmed this is the name of the planet. Obviously, hopefully they'll say it in the movie, but it would make sense for the soundtrack because there's a song named that in the soundtrack, and I found if that would be the planet, like that's his theme when Mando enters the planet with his new Razor Crest, I feel like that would make the most sense. Also, we don't really know that planet. And then the next would be Hugo Durant Shack, which is that four-armed creature, which actually showed up in Solo. Specifically, the one in Solo was Rio Durant, so Hugo Durant and Rio Durant might actually be like brothers or somehow related, which we probably won't really get any lore or it's just a little inside thing. But that is that one clip that we did get from the trailer of Mandalorian and Grogu. Then obviously he's gonna see that fight against Rada, not actually be in it, but sort of be on the sidelines with Grogu. And then I'm assuming he somehow gets entangled into that fight with Rada. Obviously Grogu isn't there, and I believe whoever owns these creatures is going to be Lord Janu. I'm going to put him on the screen, who I think is going to be Lord Janu. I don't know, or that could also be Commander Coin. Honestly, I'm thinking that's just going to be Commander Coin, even though he doesn't really look Imperial. He also, I believe in some sort of clip, he showed him owning all of those Jarek creatures, also Rada, and basically everyone in that pit fight. So I'm assuming the Hutts are hired Mando to actually like capture Lord Jano, or maybe whoever this one owning the creatures could be, and then of course trying to free Rada, because Rada technically is the heir to the throne, which also did not match up with like my previous predictions. I never really made a video about, where I was thinking that the Hutts twins didn't really want Rada to be freed, because then Rada would replace them in the lineage, I guess, of the Hutts, and basically would become the new Hutt leader. That is when we're probably going to get the chase scene between the giant like Jarek creature as well as Mando, and then Grogu's gonna get his new pram, and then eventually Mando and Zeb go onto a speeder. It's one of the clips that dropped where Grogu was in the Razor Crest and he was trying to fire missiles at the upcoming stormtroopers which were chasing them down, and they did have the same person, not Lord Jano, maybe Lord Jano, who I'm thinking is Lord Jano, but whoever this was, again I'll show another picture on the screen, was definitely present in that speeder and was being chased by the Empire. So it's either the Empire actually like wants them, Lord Jano, or who I think is Lord Jano, back, or either they just want to kill him. Like Mando and Zeb, I'm assuming, actually escape with him, and that is when I think Mando is probably gonna assume the mission is over. Like he's gonna turn in to Colonel Ward or the Hutts or whatever, and then that's gonna probably be the end of the mission, is what he thinks. But when he returns to Navarro, he's probably going to encounter Embo, hired by the Hutts. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are thinking it would just start on the homestead and then Embo would immediately show up, because a lot of people thought on the background they could see the homestead with the rain going in the background. But I think that would make the most sense, because the soundtrack actually really helped me line that up together, and that Embo is going to capture Mando and then eventually take him to the Hutt twins. And then one of the Hutt's droids, which are actually really cool, all the Hutt's droids that they have, there's like a mixture of droids. Like there's a little bit of a B1 and some of them a B2, like even a K2SO, like whatever model droid that is. It's sort of just a combination of all these mercenary droids, I believe is what the official name is. And basically he does get his helmet removed. We see that in the trailer by the Hutts, but I'm assuming the Hutt twins are gonna die and Rada might replace them. Rada could die. I don't really think he will die, but I'm assuming that the ending will be the Hutt twins dying, because I don't feel like they would just remove Mando's helmet. Obviously they want to see Pedro Pascal's face eventually, kind of remove his helmet somehow, but it would make the most sense if the Hutt twins died. So you know, all of season 3 wouldn't really be for nothing. And also I want to note that Grogu is not present. Maybe Grogu could have escaped or not have been captured by Embo in the first place. This is where I'm assuming most of the, not really training, just area where we see Grogu, which I'm assuming is going to be the jungle of Nal Hutta. And we also get to see Yoda's master. I don't think it's actually Yoda's master, but it's whoever this is. I'll put an image on the screen, but I don't really think that actually is going to be Yoda's master. I'm just referring it to as Yoda's master. Maybe they could make some sort of mention with Yoda's master, because he does sort of quote Yoda, and then Yoda could have like mixed that quote up a little bit to make it his own eventually, technically before. But honestly, I don't really think that will make the most sense why he would be on Nal Hutta. I'm not quite sure about all the comics, whatever the actual like Yoda's master, wherever he shows up in, but honestly I don't think they'll really do anything with that. But I'm thinking Grogu is going going to save Mando. Mando's probably going to escape on his own and encounter that dragon snake, which is from the Clone Wars, but this one is underground, which is why it is completely white and looks a little bit different than the Clone Wars. But I'm assuming eventually Mando Grogu are going to meet up, and then they are going to suit up. Basically, they're going to get that whole scene with weapons. It's basically just a clip where he had a bunch of different weapons and he was suiting up for everything. And then he also got, which is really, really important, also really cool, the ambient sniper rifle, which I don't really see any other parts of the trailer that would at least make sense for my prediction where he had that ambient sniper rifle. So I'm assuming he's going to go back to his Razor Crest and get it, and as well as a bunch of other stuff. He's going to go back to try to maybe at least like kill the twins or do something else. I don't think Mando would really try to kill the twins, but maybe he actually is, and he's going back there maybe to free Rada, and then he'll have that duel with Embo, which we only saw a second of that, but that would make the most sense. So it would be like more prepared to fight Embo with those, I guess, sort of knives. It's also sort of like a sword. I believe in the Black Series figure, he had one sword, but it seemed more like two. It definitely could be one, so he could get a Beskar sword, maybe in this. And then eventually they would go to the huts, and they'd also fight the security droids, I believe, which will be like the final thing. Also in the Lego set, there is Embo as well as the security droids, and then that door behind them, which wouldn't really make sense if they were just going up there and they didn't really need to fight anyone because they were just gonna do the Hutt's mission. And then the security droid would sort of be blocking them on the way to the Huts, and then they would eventually defeat them with the ambient sniper rifle, which is that other scene that I lined up, so would make a lot more sense because that's the only other scene we see him with the ambient sniper rifle. And then eventually they meet the Hutt twins. Maybe they kill them, maybe Grogu kills them or does something. I'm assuming they die, but they don't like actually kill them, like something else happens. And basically there's only like one clip that I went back on the trailers and I had absolutely no idea where it could be, which is where the Star Hoppers, which is actually a ship in Star Wars, were shot out, and there was also a bunch of mercenary droids hunting them down. I believe it looked like a little bit above where the Razor Crest, as well as a bunch of X-Wings, and Colonel Wall telling Mando to leave. So I'm assuming that this could maybe be where Mando goes back and maybe tries to save Grogu against the New Republic's wishes, and the New Republic has to go in and save them. Honestly, I'm not really sure where this is gonna line up at all in the story. It could definitely line up in a lot of different places, and I don't really know exactly how the ship encounter with the Star Hoppers is really gonna go. But honestly, I think that's where the movie's gonna end. Hopefully my like most optimal ending would be Rada being the new like Hutt leader, and then the Hutt twins dying. I think that would actually be really cool. But honestly, that's all my predictions for this movie. But that is gonna do it for today's video. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a big rest of your day, and see you on the next one.